We got a lot of things going on right now, and I promise you there's nobody that has more things going on than Pete Nakos, who is everything reporter here for us at On 3. I call him Portal Pete. Welcome now to the show to present some intel, present his insight, and just bring the juice, period. Pete Nakos. Pete, what's going on, man? Are you sleeping at all? Did you get any REM last night, or are we just jumping right into it? Portal season started at midnight Eastern.
I stayed up till 12:30 with the hope someone would go in the portal. And shout out to my Minnesota walk-on guy who went in. He kind of made it feel worth it. And then I was up at 5:30 waiting for some random compliance department to kick things off, and the Indiana compliance department delivered at like 6:45. But here we are. We're ready to rock and roll. Talk some transfer portal. Let's get going.
Let's go, baby. How about the Indiana starting us off strong, man? Well, I mean, I want to start right there. Has anything happened in the last 40 minutes? I haven't checked my computer. I was assuming there'd be a steady influx of names. Anything outside of Caden Proctor? I see we got some. I just refreshed my Twitter screen that was on the On3 Twitter account. You got a report with some KeAndre Lambert Smith news. What's the latest there?
Yeah, so KeAndre Lambert Smith is the Penn State grad transfer wide receiver, led the Nittany Lions in catches a year ago, went in the transfer portal yesterday, reported this past Friday that he was expected to go in, and just talking to someone close to KeAndre who knows the situation, was told that Georgia, West Virginia, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Colorado are some of the first teams who have contacted him in the first 24 hours. And he's automatically the best available wide receiver in the portal. He has a ton of upside. He also has 1 year of eligibility remaining, and really can come in and be wide receiver one, I think, for a lot of programs. And when you look across the board, wide receiver is pretty high on some of the needs for some of the top teams in the country. And yeah, I think he's the kind of guy who's going to be able to pick where he wants to go. At the same time, he's obviously going to want to go to a place that has a proven quarterback where he knows that the ball is going to get thrown his way quite a bit, and feels like he can contend for a CFP berth, right? And that's what he was trying to do at Penn State, and that's where he's going to look now.
I'm really curious to see where he ends up, man. It's a pretty high-profile list of schools that you just mentioned there. I'm really curious about what Auburn does in the portal. I want to talk about portal players here in a second, but you mentioned the position market and how it fluctuates from running back to the trenches to even quarterback from different portal windows and portal cycles. What are some of the positions that you're watching most closely and that are going to be in the highest demand? Because you talked about it in one of your most recent articles on on3.com, kind of a portal primer for the folks. What are the positions that are going to be hot commodities this cycle?
Yeah, running back is really high up there right now for a lot of programs, right? Just a proven veteran rusher who can come back in and really make an impact in the running game really quickly. Programs can never have too many linemen. They'll tell you that whenever you talk to them. So definitely a premium in the trenches. And I think when you talk about the spring transfer portal window, the way I look at it, and a lot of coaching staffs do, is right. December's to restock the talent pool. April is kind of this time to really go through with a fine tooth comb and just try to figure out, okay, do I need more depth on the line? Do I need a running back who can make an instant impact? Those little spots like that this is the time to do that. This is the last time you can do it before fall and the season really gets going. The one other position I've heard a lot about, JD, everybody right now kind of seems to like they would love to have a great linebacker, but there are not there's some really good linebackers out there, but no one's really heard of any really good ones going in the portal just yet. So that will be one thing to keep an eye on. I would expect, if I'm not going to name any names, but if someone with a really good resume jumps in, I would imagine that their recruitment is going to be pretty high profile.
That's so fascinating. Is it a thing where, kind of similar to the offensive line and defensive line, just the physicality and the duration of a season now is causing that to be like a higher demand position with this expanded playoff and just longer season period? Is that kind of the way this is trending?
Yeah, I think you're right on that. If you want to win a national championship now, like you mentioned, you got to play 17 games. And I think that kind of adds up over time. And at the same thing, too, like you want a defense that week in, week out can deliver. And this just as well as I do, but you need the depth.
Yeah, it's a wild time right now to be looking for some extra talent. And I think the narrative across the college football public was like, hey, buckle up, going to be the craziest portal cycle we've seen. And it might still be crazy. I mean, I don't want to just totally throw that thought away, but kind of what you said, it seems like this is sort of that time of year where teams are looking to add depth as opposed to adding like a top 5%er kind of player in the country. Is that, am I on the ball there, or is it going to be a thing where we see some big names pop up here after that second round of spring games and some big names jump in there?
I think that overall this talent pool is not going to be comparable to what we've seen in the wintertime. That said, I think that this is going to be a slow burn. There's a lot of big programs that don't have spring games until this upcoming weekend, Michigan, Texas, among others. Um, I don't. I'm not expecting there to be like a power four starting quarterback to jump in. If that gives you a little bit more context.
Yeah, it seemed like last
Obviously,
year. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, I cut you off there, Pete. Go ahead.
No, you're all good. I was just saying, obviously, we can be surprised, but at this point, I just don't expect that.
Yeah, like last year, it kind of felt like you saw some of those guys at quote unquote lesser schools, like Cam Ward at Washington State, and you're like, okay, maybe he's one to keep an eye on. You'd have to believe the demand will be pretty high. But you were talking about with me when we, we're discussing this whole thing leading up to this portal cycle, backup quarterback kind of having a little bit more buzz. I mentioned Nick Evers earlier in the show, Jacoby Criswell earlier in the show, two guys that were 4-star recruits at their respective classes. Is it a backup quarterback market for the most part this spring, Pete? And are they drawing some pretty good NIL attraction on that front?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a backup quarterback market. I think what people need to consider too is when you see a Nick Evers or Jacoby Criswell go in, everyone is like, okay, they're going to a G5 school, and they may as well. I mean, they're very talented quarterbacks who can do a lot for a program, but at the same time, I think we need to see how the backup quarterback market kind of like shuffles itself out right now, JD, right? Ohio State and Alabama have some of the deeper quarterback rooms, but what if two of those guys leave? I mean, Nick Evers and Jacoby Criswell are really talented guys who could easily step in and compete for a backup job right away at one of those programs, maybe. And um, I wouldn't expect decisions from them immediately.
Yeah, I'm watching Michigan, man. I'm just so fascinated to watch their spring game that's coming up and see where they're at the quarterback position, because as much as they have some unproven production that's returning, they still have a lot of pieces where it's like, hey, if you got some of these guys back, like a Colston Loveland, like a Will Johnson, like a Kenneth Grant, like might as well go get a quarterback that can capitalize on that much talent and go try and make a run at a back-to-back national title kind of thing. Is Michigan to be in the portal quarterback market you're just estimating here, or what's the latest when it comes to how that could shake out for a team like Michigan?
I think that Michigan is going to be in the quarterback market if the right quarterback jumps in the portal. I think they really like Alex Orji. I think that Sharon Moore is really handling this well and realizes that he can't lose his entire quarterback room just to add in one guy. I think Jaden Davis has a lot of upside. I think they're trying to handle that delicately, and it's going to be something to monitor throughout the next few weeks. But by no means do I think it's if someone goes in there immediately going. I think it has to be the right fit in the right timing.
No, I mean, that makes sense. When you talk about other teams, though, that could be going into attack mode this transfer portal cycle, any names that you're consistently hearing from a program perspective?
Yeah, Washington, Alabama, Michigan would really love to add some wide receivers, I know. So, like, that kind of group of schools that were really impacted by Nick Saban's decision to retire are the programs I'm keeping an eye on. And then you always have to bring it up, but Colorado lost like 6 guys in the portal this morning. Like, I think Deion Sanders and crew are going to have to dip into the portal to field a complete 85-man roster.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to watch Colorado because this time last year it was like a lot of names were popping up, and then it came out, well, hey, we were told we didn't have a spot anymore. Coach Prime is kind of letting us know where we stand, and we're not on the roster anymore, so we're jumping in the portal. Curious how much of that goes on, and curious how many of those guys are leaving on their own accord. Last question for you, Pete. When it comes to the NIL market, if I'm a big boy and I can play offensive or defensive line, and I'm about my money, I might think about holding out until this spring window to maximize my dollar amount. Is that something that's happening? I mean, is it just the offensive and defensive line is demanding the most capital, or what position groups in your mind are going to be the high-priced items?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on. I think that the linemen are definitely going to be some of the most sought after, and because of that, they'll probably have a good premium attached to them. So yeah, I think you're probably onto something if you're a lineman who's really talented who might wait out for the spring portal because I can almost guarantee you're going to have a pretty good line of suitors the minute you jump in.
Golly, man. I'm like, as you're on the screen, I'm like scrolling the socials to make sure I'm not missing someone that's jumped in that I want to ask you about. Anything that you think we need to keep our head in the swivel for, Pete? I mean, just open floor here. Any wise words from Portal Pete?
The one thing I would tell everyone to just keep an eye on, and this isn't like overly insightful, but because of the nature of college sports right now, JD, and you and I have talked about it so much, we could see an athlete threaten to go in the portal and then maybe stay because they get a couple extra dollars. Or we could see an athlete we never saw go in the portal because they weren't fully paid out the money they were promised. So while we sit here and talk about like maybe we don't see a power forward starting quarterback go in, just remember if we do see a couple of surprises, the context really matters, and NIL isn't everything, but it definitely has an impact on the portal.
Head on a swivel. It's portal season, baby. It's portal season. Hey, make sure you're following Pete Nakos to stay up to date for all things transfer portal. Extremely critical all year round, but especially right now. Pete, caffeine source. Are you a coffee guy? Are we going 5-hour energy? Are you caffeine pills? Like, what's the sustenance to keep you rolling right now, man? What's the fuel?
You know, I drink coffee. I know Trey Yanity has offered me some caffeine pills from time to time, your producer, but yeah, I'm passing on those at the moment.
Okay, well, hey, try anything once, twice if you like it. That's all I'll say. Pete, thanks for making time, and very, very excited to tune in with you here throughout the course of this portal cycle.
Sounds great, man. Thanks so much, JD. Have a great day.
Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.